Well, after a month of very challenging Gospels all through August, now we get these. And you think, oh, okay, Jesus, are you in a better mood today and telling these stories? Or what? Why the shift? Or earlier this week I was part of a training program for new pastors, and part of what I was saying was I was encouraging them to model their pastoral style after Jesus, and one of the young pastors said, "Which Jesus?" What do you mean? Well, sometimes Jesus is very harsh, and so should I be the harsh Jesus? Or sometimes Jesus is very, very forgiving. Should I be the very forgiving Jesus? Or so yeah, it can seem that way at times, but the hope is as we grow to understand Jesus, that it all fits, it all makes sense, that his challenges are there because sometimes we need to be challenged, and his gentleness is there because sometimes we need simply mercy. So we have to see it within the context of what it's being directed toward. The gospel tells us today that these three stories were aimed at the Pharisees because they were upset that Jesus was dining with well-known sinners and prostitutes. And you think, Jesus, not looking good. The group you're hanging with, you really shouldn't be hanging with. And he aims it at them. But he might be aiming it at them, I think, to teach two things. One is the nature of God, and the other is the nature of us. The lost sheep, the lost coin, the lost son, all show someone desiring to find what was lost. That could be Jesus, could be God. That the very nature of God is to always seek out what is missing. It's interesting in all three, there wasn't really somebody on the outside but somebody that was on the inside that went out. So they were originally, the sheep was one of the 100. The coin was one of the 10. The son was in the family. They were all part of what belonged. And somehow they got lost. So the shepherd, the woman, the father, all desire the lost one to be back home, to be a part of it again, and is not satisfied, will not sit still, is always pursuing. That is of their very nature. As crazy as it may be, because we just had this gospel, you might remember, in Lent. So those of you who heard me in Lent, it's the craziness of the shepherd, because nobody leaves 99 in search of the one. That's crazy. A lady doesn't sweep her house looking for a pretty much worthless coin and then have a party with her neighbors. They would all think that's a crazy lady. And the father, whose son insulted him and left and spent his inheritance, coming back, most fathers would have a few things to say to that son before they'd say, "We're going to throw you a party." It's crazy. But that is of the nature of God. Jesus is telling us what this God of ours is like, that this God is always going to seek you out no matter what. That's God's very nature, and will do whatever it takes, even if it means hanging around with prostitutes and known sinners to bring them back, whatever it takes. So that is the nature of God that we learn about through these stories of lost sheep and lost coin and lost son. I think it also says something about us. None of those three did anything bad. They were simply lost. The sheep wasn't there going, I'm just going to try and get away. It's a sheep. It wandered off. It didn't do anything wrong. The coin didn't say, I'm out of here. The coin got lost. The lady lost it. And the son did not sin by asking for his inheritance. He simply asked for it early, and the father willingly gave it to him. It was his money to do as he wanted. He just thought there was more of it than was there. And so he ran out of it. You can't eat at the finest restaurant every night and think there's going to be money a couple of years from now. He runs out. They didn't do anything wrong. They were simply lost. I think it says something about us that you and I, in our relationship with God, oftentimes, maybe daily, get lost. And we don't have to do anything bad. We don't have to sin to be lost from God. Sometimes it might be an illness. Sometimes it might be the loss of a loved one. Sometimes it might be struggles at work. Sometimes it might be what's happening at home. Sometimes it's an addiction. Sometimes it's a depression. Sometimes we're just bored. We've been praying for a lot of years, and I pray and I'm like, this is really boring, God. I've been praying to you for a long time. I'm not feeling your presence. I feel lost. Sometimes it might be that crazy preacher you have at Cabrini, and you can't stand listening to him anymore, and you think, I can't do this. We get lost for many, many reasons. We simply get lost. And we're in the church. Just like that coin is in the house. It's not out of the house, it's right there. Sometimes we're right here. We just are away from God a little bit. It's of our nature. And it's of God's nature, when you're feeling that way, to seek you out, to find you, to bring you back, to make you feel at home again. That's what God does when we keep wandering away. For many reasons, we wander. But God keeps bringing us back. It might actually seem like we don't have much choice, because this God of ours is so persistent. We might just say, okay, already, I'm back, God. And then God rejoices. When I was probably about 8, I got in a big fight with my sister, and my mom sided with her and disciplined me. And I was mad that she had chosen her over me. So I was in my room pouting, and they began calling for supper, and I thought, I'm not going. I don't want to be a part of it. I'm mad. And everybody else must have been around the table. There were 6 kids, except for me, so they kept calling my name. And I thought, I'm going to hide. I'm not going to be with those people. So I went under my bed, and they came downstairs into my bedroom and looked for me and didn't find me. And for the next 10 minutes, I heard them yelling my name throughout the neighborhood because they figured I was outside somewhere. And as I sat there in my room all by myself, I thought, there's no way out of this. Sooner or later, I have to face them. Seemed like a good idea to hide, but they're going to keep calling. Sooner or later, they'll probably call the police and look for me, and I'm right in the house. I'm just ignoring them. So I had to finally surrender and give up and go upstairs. And didn't you hear us calling? No. Add one more sin to another. But they were not going to be happy until I was sitting at table with them. Whether I was mad at them or not, that's where I belonged. And that's the way our God is. He wants you at the table. Doesn't matter who you are or where you've been or how much you've run away from him. God will keep looking until you're home.